Okay. Sorry, somebody came to the door. Okay, let's go back to chapter 17, number 1. Atticus questions Hecate about calling a doctor, her injuries, bruises, in which eye was black, which was her right eye. Number 2, what makes people uncomfortable about Mr. Yule's testimony? He uses foul language, he swears, he says inappropriate things. Which, if you guys remember at the time, I mean, at the very beginning of the book, we learned that you can be charged with saying profane language in front of a woman. So they're all just like, it's not like today where we barely bat an eye when we hear things being said. People are just astounded that this man would speak like this on the stand, which typically, though, when we're in court, most people try to be on their best behavior, but he doesn't because he just kind of he has no class. And whether that's his fault or not, he just doesn't know the rules of society and how to behave. 3, did Mr. Yule run for a doctor after he found his daughter wounded? No. So obviously, the angle that Atticus is trying to take here is what kind of person isn't going to go get a doctor for their daughter if they find that she has been brutally beaten and raped? Um, but they come back with a nice point that sorry, I had to make sure it wasn't one of the questions that he said, well, we don't use doctors, we've never been to a doctor in our life, why would we start using one now? Which kind of makes sense, right? So then number 4, what does Atticus ask Mr. Yule to do? He asks him to write his name, and we find out when he writes his name, is Mr. Yule, number 5, right-handed or left-handed? He's left-handed, which means he could have beaten up Mayella himself because her injuries were predominantly on her right side. So usually at this point in class, I would have 2 people stand up and kind of demonstrate. But if someone's throwing a punch with their left, they're more than likely going to connect. So, this is so you can't see it here, but it would be like this side of the face, right? So, um, so Atticus is trying to show everyone, hey, there's reason to believe, if that's the side of the face that was bruised, that it was a left-hand person who did this, and it very likely could be um, her father. Because let's face it, we know left-handers are way more rare than right-handed people. Um, Not like extremely rare, but that most people are majority are right-handed. Okay, so then 6, who is the prosecutor in the case against Tom Robinson? It's a man named Mr. Gilmer. And then 7, the Yules are extremely poor and their house is very run down. Was a one pretty thing that stands out in their yard. There are flower pots that belong to Mayella Yule, red geraniums. Actually, I think they're in jars. I don't even know if they're flower pots. But these red geraniums are cared for. They talk about Scout recalls it, and she says they're cared for so carefully they look like they could be in like Miss Maudie's garden, and we know that Miss Maudie is like this master gardener. So it, it kind of suggests with Mayella that she's slightly different than the rest of her family. She either wants more for herself, or she tries to take care of things the best she can. That she's taking the time to take care of these flowers and make sure they grow properly. That's not usually something that somebody without any class or what I want to say, that just, I guess when they talk about them being the trash of the town, would do, right? This is not something that is normal. Um, so it's something to consider as we look at Mayella Yule. Chapter 18 then, when Mayella takes a witness stand, who does she point to as frightening her? She says Atticus is. Um, she's scared of him and thinks he's making fun of her for number 2 because he calls her ma'am and he's very polite to her, and she thinks that's him mocking her. So at this moment, we're really supposed to feel kind of sorry for her despite what is going on with this court case, because, we know this whole thing with the red geraniums, which is suggesting that she's somehow different inside. But 2, this poor girl has never been complimented or been treated with respect in her life. So when someone does finally do that, just because it's a polite thing to do, she thinks they're making fun of her. So this is a situation that is, I mean, just super sad for the kids, when these things happen today too. And, you look at these people and you can't always make excuses for them, but you can feel bad for them, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, because she was born into a circumstance that she really can't change. Um, and even though, as we keep reading, that our attitude towards her might change, it's suggested that Harper Lee is trying to get us to understand that she might be a little bit different. So then number 3, what a scout knows about Tom Robinson when he stands up, his left arm is damaged. So this goes back to Mr. Yule signing his name with his left hand, suggesting that a left-handed person beat up Mayella. But now we look at Tom Robinson, and it says he got his hand caught in was it a cotton gin, I think, off the top of my head. In any case, it kind of just hangs there, and it says like all the muscles were shredded from it, so it's just kind of like limp and just hangs there, and it's shorter than his other arm. So suggesting that there's no possible way he could have used that. Even when he goes to swear on the Bible eventually. Is that the next one here? Yeah, sorry if I'm jumping ahead. It's not anything crucial, but he can't even like control his left hand enough to keep it on the Bible to swear before he tells the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So then, according to Atticus's questions, what does he think is the real reason Mayella started screaming? He suggests because she saw her father in the window and he caught her with a black man in the house. So we're looking at Mayella being guilty for being with a black man, which is pretty unforgivable at the time. 5, who does Atticus think beat up Mayella? Mr. Yule. 6, what question does Atticus ask Mayella about her father? He asks Mayella if Mr. Yule has ever hit her. And she doesn't quite know what to say, right? And then 7, what is Atticus's view of Judge Taylor? Atticus believes that he is a good judge, and he's a solid judge, and he's going to do what he can to make this a fair trial. Okay, so then chapter 19, these are the last questions we're going over. Whose house did Tom have to pass by every time he went to work? So it's about Tom's testimony. The Yule house. What did Tom often do for Mayella? And various chores. So now we know that she's been watching him for a long time because he always had to pass by. And she would ask him to come in and do various things for her. And why didn't... Well, we'll jump to that. Let's just go to Tom's recollection of the night of November 21st. He says something about Mayella asked him to come inside to fix a door, but the door wasn't broken. Then she asked him to get a box down from a shelf that was too tall for her to reach. And when he did, I think... he got on a chair to do it. She jumped on him and kissed him. He tried to resist, but she was still wrapped around him. Then her father saw them through the window and yelled to Mayella, "You're a whore and that I'll kill you." And then Tom ran. And this is really sad too because at this point, whether he is guilty or not, he's guilty because if he stays there, he's going to look guilty because no one's going to believe him, a black man who has speaking against a white woman. But then he's also guilty if he runs, but he chose to run because he didn't know what else to do. Sorry. So then why does Link D speak out in court? So this man named Link D says in all the years Tom's worked for him, he's never caused a single problem. So here we have someone, a white person, who is so kind of enraged with what is happening that oh, say hi to everybody. That he is willing to stand up in court and get thrown out to defend this man who's never caused any problems for him. At this point, Dill starts to cry and has to leave the courtroom. And we know this is because of the way that Mr. Gilmer is speaking to Tom when he's being cross-examined by Mr. Gilmer, being very condescending and making racist remarks, and it makes Dill sick, but we'll talk about that more. Why didn't Tom Robinson accept payment from Mayella? Tom says he knows how poor she is and he didn't want to take money from her. And this is a very significant moment because then they talk about how dare he feel sorry for this white woman. It's unforgivable. Even though the Yules were the trash of the town, they're still better than any black family in their mind. And then 7, Whom does Scout, or who does Tom remind Scout of? She believes that Tom Robinson has manners that are as good as her father's manners. So she's kind of reminded of him as he is speaking. Um, okay, so that is all the questions. So go ahead and check those with what you guys did, and I will check those obviously for a grade still. But um, thanks for watching. Say bye. Say bye.